at the latest. We're going to start out with the city council candidates, and they'll each have 5 minutes to speak, up to 5 minutes. And then we will move into the school tax levy, and they'll have about 25 minutes to talk. And then we'll go straight into the school board candidates. We're going to take everybody in the order they were on the ballot. And the city and the chamber are not endorsing nor not endorsing any person or the levy. They're here just to present the information to everybody. As far as questions, at the end we are going to follow up until 8 o'clock with whatever time we have left to the question and answer session. The way we're going to do that is this. After the city council candidates speak, if you have a question, just have it written down. If you need a piece of paper, raise your hand, we'll bring you one, and we'll collect those questions. After the levy, we're going to do the same thing, pick up the questions. Then after school board candidates, we'll pick up the questions after them. Then we're going to put them in a box, we're going to shake them up, I'm going to draw them out, and just start asking questions until 8 o'clock. We do ask a couple things. First of all, don't ask an open-ended question to everybody. If that's the case, we'll have enough time for probably one question. So please direct your question to a specific person that you want to ask the question of, just in order to save time. And that's really about it. It's going to be pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And we're just going to start right in with the city council candidates. And we're going to start first with Sheila Cook.
First straw. Good evening. I am Sheila Cook, and I'm running for re-election to the Marshall City Council, Ward 1. I've been on the council for 9 years, and I co-chair the Property, Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee. I've been a business owner in Marshall for 29 years, and the only item on my agenda is to work hard to get the city of Marshall to be the best it can be. I intend to devote all my efforts to that, and I will continue striving not to make any promises that I can't keep. I feel that we're all needing to work together, and I look forward to working with all the residents of Marshall to move Marshall forward. And thank you very much.
Next, Jeff Michaels.
I'm Jeff Michaels. I'm running for City Council in Ward 1. In 1986, I joined the Sherwin Williams Company, where I held the position of assistant manager. Where I held the position of assistant manager, store manager, and operations manager. In 1998, I started my own business here in Marshall, selling and installing floor care. In 2006, I obtained my real estate license, and I worked with private real estate part-time. In 2012, I received my broker's license, and I started Michael's Realty with my wife, Mona. We just recently stopped doing floor covering, and now we're focusing all of our attention on our real estate business. If elected, my agenda will be to work with the other members of the council, the city administrator, and the mayor to support the positive things going on in our community. We have several major employers building buildings, expanding services, and growing their campuses. The plaza also received a long overdue facelift, and I hope we can work with them to continue to improve in that area. Thank you, and hope I receive your support.
Move on to Ward 4, and I meant to say it before, Sheila and Jeff are both running for Ward 1, a 2-year term. Ward 4, a 2-year term, Ron Duval.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I've been on the city council for 16 years. Through that time, we've seen airport improvement, new viaduct on Eastwood, the Walmart Plaza area go up, strip mall in Hardwick Strip Mall. Also, I am affiliated with the food pantry, and we're getting ready to pour concrete tomorrow for a new building. I would very much appreciate your vote, and thank you.
Final city council candidate, Steve Ricker.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Rimmer. I'm running for City Council, the 4th Ward. I was born and raised here in Swain County, been here all my life. I worked construction all my life. I've also been a business owner and worked with city stuff a lot on the different projects and whatnot, and I'm very well versed in the things and how to get things done. I have been probably, what's really odd about this is that I am running against one of my best friends. We grew up together in school at our farm, and we were neighbors. And in fact, I don't know if Ron remembers or not, but I was your best man. That's your wedding. Who knows, there's no animosity or bitterness between us. We're still best of friends and all that. However, I do solicit your vote in this because I'm trying to follow an old tradition with my dad.
If anybody has any questions, if you would just have them written down and raise your hand so I can pick them up. And we'd like to move on to the Marshall School Board tax levy. Again, any questions, just raise your hand, we'll pick them up. I'll ask the same thing again after the tax levy presentation, and then again after the school board candidate presentation.
Thanks, Pete. Good evening. I'm Amy Weber, and I am representing the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Marshall Public School. I got involved in this effort back in December. I want to let you know who that Citizens Advisory Committee composed of. It was a broad cross-section, I believe, of interested people that were either solicited by our district or attended on their own accord. There were invitations published in the paper and sent out through text messaging to all patrons of the district. And they listened to architects, which had been engaged by our Marshall Public Board of Education. They have engaged Ittner architecture firm to do a number of studies of our district, to poll the employees of the district and the teachers, and they presented a lot of information to us. It was multiple nights. It started before Christmas and ended up, I believe, at the end of January, 1st of February. So we listened to multiple nights, and our takeaway on that is that our needs, this was an independent citizens committee. Just trying to follow these slides here. We've changed this up. We've done this presentation for those of you who are involved in civic groups and such. You may have seen this. We've switched it up a little to keep it fresh tonight. So if I'm a little bit too fresh, I apologize for that. But basically our takeaway is that our needs are serious and widespread, as you know. We do have a comprehensive plan. The levy increase addresses needs at every school for every student. So that's what is different this time. It includes renovations at both the high school and Beacon Middle School, as well as new construction, which you'll hear a little bit more about in detail a little later, of a new K-2 and 3-5 building on the same campus, which is new and we believe a real benefit for our students. and a STEM addition to the high school. And STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And so that will be a new addition out on the high school campus to make our high school children more competitive in today's job market. And really what we believe this plan is what's best for students. So again, a lot of thought went into this. There was a lot of listening. There was a great deal of conversation over a course of nights. And then we presented our findings and our recommendations back to the Board of Education. And then they adopted that and put the levy issue on the ballot that you'll be voting on April 8th. And I'm just one member of that committee that got the mic for the very first of this, and I'll come back to you later. But right now, I guess we're going to turn it over to Mary Lou, who's going to talk about our current situation. And this is Mary Lou Porter, for those of you who don't know her.
When I did this for the first time recently, I never got around to saying what my name was. So anyway, yes, I'm Mary Lou Porter. I have lived in Marshall since 1960. I taught in the Marshall High School. I taught there for 30 years, starting at what is the old high school, as we call it, Beaker Middle School. So I am coming from quite a few years here of experience, and I am passionate about this particular project. It is necessary and it needs to be done. And one of the main things, of course, is the temporary spaces here, the trailers as we call them. When I started teaching in 1964, there were no trailers. We had no concept of trailers. That just was not in the plan. And when it was introduced, the annex was first, we thought again, temporary. And then the trailers came, temporary. We thought they were not very attractive, but it was just going to be temporary. And when we built what I call the new high school, it's always the old high school and the new high school, 1976, we had also lots of trailers still existed. All right, the pictures that you have above here are just a few. I mean, the schools that you saw, we saw some of the trailers there, but 10 trailers housing the amount of students that we saw. But in the upper left, I believe that is Benton School, and you can see the trailer situation there. The bottom left is Eastwood, and then the upper right is Northwest. And here you have a nice facade on the building here. That is the newest of the elementary, built in 1968. And then you have the trailers that you're looking to on the far right. Always the trailers. And then on the far right, this is Beaker Middle School in the back. And you will see the little green, shirt there. That is a student who's going out of a trailer, taking a note into the main building. And the only way that student can get in is either through a custodian room on the right behind the truck or into the cafeteria area. And I'm not sure if they can get through what used to be the industrial arts, and I think still is there. But they're coming out in the cold. You see snow on the ground. Of course, that could have been taken almost any time recently. But this is the thing about, we are literally out of space. And the security, the hot, cold, it's been a long winter for those who were in the trailers. They all have to go into the main building to go to the bathroom. It is very, not only inconvenient, it is not secure. And they were just temporary, and I keep, reiterating that because that is the problem with the situation there. But you can see how bad this really is. On the next slide, I actually have the statistics there. 10 trailers housing 409 students. 15% of the total students are housed in trailers. We are literally out of room. If you go into the various buildings, every space is being used. It has always been used. We're having classrooms in the gymnasium, and I'm not talking about PE classes. We're having the stage is a classroom. Closets are being used for one-on-one at times. Some teachers have said, I can't do the Harry Potter closet. I can't do that. But this is where we are, and it's not that we haven't made good use of space. But I know when we were trying to build the new high school in 1974, voting on that, it was because Beaker Middle School Every room, every space was being used every hour. And I was teaching there at that point, and I know that. When I came back after having a child and taught part-time, I was a traveling teacher. You had your car, and if you were lucky, you were on one floor. I never had that luck. I was going up and down stairs to do the teaching. I mean, that's where we were then, that's where we are now. And that is what's crucial here. Space is the key thing here. And transportation is something that will be addressed here by Lori Craig.
Thank you. My name is Lori Craig, and I am probably one of the newcomers on the committee. I've been in Marshall for about 10 years, and this is an important project to me because this is really the only home that my kids have. We love this community. We love living here. We're active, and I think, in another 10 years, I'm going to have a child leaving college, and I'd like to think that I have an opportunity to bring the kids back to Marshall to work and to raise a family. This picture was taken this morning, talking about transportation concerns. One of the things that this project will do for us is to house all of our kindergarten through 5th grade on one campus. I think that's a very important piece. It's one of the biggest financial components of the project, but it's very important that we get those kids back together in the community. We have our very own metro here in Marshall. So what happens is every day the buses will go pick up kids, bring high school, middle school, and elementary school kids to the high school campus. Everyone transfers. People that aren't staying at the high school will transfer to a different bus that then carries them to the building in the district that they'll be housed in for the day for education. At the end of the day's activities, everybody gets back on a bus, which is fine. I'm not saying there's any problem with busing, but they come back to the high school and then they transfer, and it's kind of, I took my husband to New York City last spring, and he called me and said he got on the wrong train and ended up in the wrong place. This is March, and 4th quarter started last week. We just had parent-teacher conferences. We had a parent call Eastwood Elementary and want to talk to the principal one afternoon last week because her kindergartner got totally confused about how to get on the bus and come home. We're 7 months in, but it's a lot for little guys to navigate. The other piece of putting the buildings together, for me, a sticking point is the number of transitions that we ask our kids to make in the Marshall community. When I moved here, it was really hard for me to understand that they would go to a new building each and every year. And I might equate that to when you start a new job. It's difficult for an adult to start a new job. You have to figure out who's going to take care of your payroll and where you're going to go to get your accounting questions answered and where's your boss's office. We ask our kids to do that every single day or every single year that they're transferring to a new building. When Marshall went, my understanding is that when we went to the separate grade buildings, it was a necessity for redistricting. And my hat is off to innovative ideas and people trying new things and trying to make the best of situations that we have. But studies indicate that the more often a child makes a transition, the harder the education process is for them. And it does have a negative impact on high school performance and on dropout rates. Because right now they enter our system at kindergarten, they move to Benton Elementary for 1st grade, they move to Southeast for 2nd grade, they move to Eastwood for 3rd grade, they move to Northwest, the new building built in 1968 for 4th grade. Then they transfer to Beaver Middle School, where they are housed in trailers because all of our 5th grade are in trailers. And then in the 6th grade, they come into the main building, spend 2 years there, and then move to the high school. And that's very difficult on a child. They never develop a sense of community within their school. They have a new school secretary each year. They have a new administrator each year. I had some great teachers. Bless Kathy Oakley and Maureen Roars. But my kids would go on the next year. They'd work really hard. I've got one that's very precocious. And they would work really hard with them. And then the next year, I'd move them into a new building. And I never had Kathy Oakley walking up to her in the hallway and saying, "Hey, what are you doing out here? We worked on that last year. No one to ever really continue that process for them or just hold them accountable, so to speak. So that's one of the important components of the plan to me, is that we have all of our kids on one single campus from K through 5 in 2 split buildings that we'll talk about. I think it would give our staff an increased sense of community as well, to know that they're working together, that they can do peer collaboration with each other. It opens us up for the opportunity of looping, where we take children who may stay with the same teacher for 2 years. Studies indicate that's a very successful method of education in some communities. It's something we can't do right now because of the way that our system is set up and the geography that we're spread across the city. I was reminded, I visited with PTO last week, and I was reminded about the time that I spent with PTO. Our PTO even struggles with this building issue. We have a lot of parents that are willing to work with our students and to come in and to help. But for them to decide how to divide their time, which building am I going to help in, which child am I going to be present at their party, which child's teacher am I going to take food for when it's parent-teacher conference time, becomes a real question. And it was even a question for the administration of the PTO on how you do improvements in the building. The kids would work hard, they would have a fundraising budget, they'd have money that was available, but every single thing that you wanted to do for your kids, you had to do times 4. So if you had a project that was $5,500, yeah, that might be fine, it might be in the budget. But the PTO couldn't do 5,500 times 4 to make it equitable to get one in every building. So at this, I'm going to turn it back over to Amy to kind of show you what we could look like, what we could have for our kids here in Marshall.
Okay, this is kind of a conceptual idea of the Marshall Plan. Again, this is from Ittler Architects. This is the first pass kind of over the bow. But what they did was they came and surveyed our community. They looked at our existing structures like our courthouse, our college, some of our landmarks to get a feel for what was important in our community. And so they have designed some structures. You'll see a little bit more about that later. But this is kind of an aerial layout of what this could possibly look like. This would be Lincoln Street at the bottom, and then this would be the campus for the new K through 2 and 3 through 5. You would have sort of parallel building structures with a green space, kind of a courtyard area in between. You've got areas for cafeterias, a shared kitchen as a cost-saving measure. So there would be a shared kitchen, but gyms at the back. And then there obviously is a driveway around. If you've ever tried to pick up children from any of our elementary schools, either a grandchild or a child, you know what a challenge that is. So this new plan will obviously solve that challenge around the exterior. And then adequate parking on both sides. The narrow structures that you see, there's sort of eaves, kind of mirrored eaves, that allows for a pitched roof. So from a construction standpoint, that is very important. It reduces some of the maintenance nightmares of a flat roof. And then it also, the wings here allow for light in every classroom, so that there would be a window in every classroom, so you're not trying to teach a child in a dungeon. So that was important to the architects as well. And then kind of an interesting concept that was very appealing to me was that in between the little eaves, the juts, you've got additional green space for instance, kindergarten could have some playground equipment out there, and so they're more secure. They're kind of a semi-enclosed area for those kiddos. And then you could have some outdoor biology labs or agronomy type lab space where they've got a community garden or learning activities out in the green space outside as well. So that was very appealing. Now again, we're gonna show a film. This is again very conceptual, but it gives you an idea of what the architect's vision for this project would be, and watch, enjoy. Pretty impressive, huh? Gave me chills to watch that. So if you have questions about any of that, please feel free to turn your question in. We're going to go on with Mary Lou Porter, who's going to talk about the high school STEM edition.
When I mentioned the new high school just a few minutes ago, built in 1976, a school that we were very proud of, but that was 1976, and one of the major renovations that are part of this particular plan that we're trying to do here is what is called STEM. And as Amy has spoken about this is your science, technology, engineering, and math area here, something that is badly needed to update our science classes and to offer this major area. So this is somewhat the rendering of what this would be. And this is in the upper northeastern part, which would be added on here, connected to the Industrial Arts Building. So this is a very exciting thing. We've had various teacher input on this, and this is a vision that is very important, and I think something that is badly needed for that particular building. So lots of us are excited about that particular possibility and the need there. So with this particular amount of money that we're talking about for renovations, you will have needed renovations at both the high school and Beaker Middle School. And we're talking about $3,125,000 that is actually in the budget. And of course, a major part of that will be for the STEM portion of Marshall High School, and then Beaker Middle School likewise will get needed improvements. Now, that is what is budgeted. If bids come in lower, if we have a 15% contingency thing built in, 15% that can be used if need be. So, you know, this is something that could grow, and I know most of you are saying, oh yeah, right, it will grow. But that's a real possibility because they're trying to, you know, say pretty much what they think construction costs will be at this particular point. And of course, we know later on, the construction costs go up, you know, if not now, when? I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. So each school will profit from this, and the wonderful campus that you saw created there as far as the video is concerned. This affects everybody. It affects our community. It is something we can be very proud of, and it is needed. There is no question about that. So that's mainly what we're dealing with in regard to the finance.
It's easy to get tripped up when you're up here, so just point of clarification. The $3.1 million is budgeted for renovations. The STEM has its own allocation in the project. So we don't have to take the STEM building out of that 3.125. That is money that will be funneled to high school and Beaker renovations. So just so you're all clear. I drew the straw to talk about money tonight. So, and unfortunately, it is going to cost us some. This is going to be the 5th time that we brought an initiative to the Marshall voters to do something about our school situation. Our lack of space, the use of space, the aging condition that we have of 4 of our 6 buildings built in 1920s. And each time, several times since I've been here and several times before I came to town, I'm told that, the response from the voters is, well, that plan is only one building, or that plan only benefits one set of students, or that plan only takes care of a small percentage of our student population. And so this plan is a plan that benefits every building in our community, every child. Even our early childhood, which is now housed in a leased space, will be repurposed into Northwest because that building is in good condition for them and room for them to grow. So wanted to kind of give you a rundown. We are asking for a levy increase. Our current Marshall levy is at $3.12 and $3.12. It's been there since about 1973, give or take some pennies. But for about 40 years, we've been operating on the same levy. The proposed increase moves us. These are some communities that are just in our local area. So if you move to any community in the local area, you would be paying a higher tax levy. The proposed levy moves us to $4.62. So we're still going to be middle of the road. This isn't a pie in the sky. We want the highest taxes in the area. So that is our levy. And this particular slide is our local tax effort per child. So the amount of money that we spend in our taxes here in Marshall that goes to each child in our community. We're spending $2,200. The communities listed on this slide are communities that are in our district. We play a lot of these communities in our sports, so their schools are similar sizes, their communities are similar sizes, and this is what they are showing you for a local tax effort that they're contributing to the education of their children. A little bit of information. We do have a complete website, marshallcaresforkids.com. We launched it yesterday. All of the information from our presentation is there, including the tax chart, depending upon the type of property that you want to evaluate, personal property, residential property. I believe on the website it even has agriculture and commercial to let you know how much you would be paying. The median home price in Marshall is $86,400. The amount of increase to that particular family would be $20.09 per month. So I think no one wants higher taxes, but it's something we have to do. So, and if not now, when? So I'd like to introduce Joe. Have him speak to you just a few minutes about the program.
I'm Joe Mitchell. I work for the Marshall School District 1979 through 1996, and I was an elementary administrator, director of elementary education for a while during those times. If you notice, one of the lines that you see repeated in the information is if not now, when? And if you look, you'll find that this is information from an 11-year compilation of information from Ittner Associates Architects concerning construction costs and how they inflate over an 11-year period. You have a 3.41% annual increase in construction costs. So if not now, when? It's never going to get any cheaper. And we can build it now. Interest rates are now at a historic low. Construction costs, 2005, $136 per square. 2015, $190. They estimated 2020 would be up to $224 per square foot. So they're, if not now, when? You know, it's my belief that every generation owes to the next generation to leave things better for them. That's what we have to do. That's our obligation. That's our duty. In the 20s and 30s, there were a generation of people, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they stepped up and did it for us and for our children. It's our turn now. It's been 40 years since we had a major building construction in the new high school. 40 years. So it's now time. And yes, it's a lot of money. It's a whale of a lot of money. But we are at a point now to where we're not keeping up with our building needs. We're at a point now where we're catching up in our building needs. And if you've ever done that on your own home or something like that, where you put it off and put it off and put it off to where you finally have to catch up because you have to do it, you're like, oh, I could have done it a lot better, a lot cheaper 10 years ago when the need first occurred. So there is the website, marshallcaresforkids.com. You'll find on there, I believe this video that you just saw was on there. All this pertinent information is on there. And again, I repeat, if not now, when? Is that a time up, Pete? Pete's going to bring the hook to take me off.
Okay, and again, if you have any questions, please write them down. If you need a piece of paper or a pen, raise your hand, bring it to you. And just raise a piece of paper in the air and somebody will come by and pick them up for you. We move on to school board candidates. The following 8 candidates are going to speak, and they're up for a 3-year term, and we will be voting on 3 of them. And the first one on the ballot is Anita Wright.
Good evening. I'm an English teacher. So I wrote things because there were several things I had to say or I have to say. And I have a tendency to ramble, so I'm going to pretty much go by what I've written, and hopefully it will explain who I am and what I believe in pretty much for those of you who maybe do not know me. I would like to begin tonight by saying that it's been a privilege to serve on the Marshall School Board for the past 9 years. It is also my pleasure and a wonderful opportunity to speak to you here tonight, and I certainly mean that. I feel like I'm an old story, which is different from an old dog, by the way. But I'm hoping that I will be telling it to some new listeners. My relationship with Marshall Schools began when I started attending Benton School at the age of 5. I am now 65. And in a way, I've been attending the Marshall Schools for nearly 60 years. I graduated from Marshall High School in '66, Missouri Valley College in '70, went on to teach in Slater the first year, for undergraduate work, and then I started at Beaker in '76, which was its first year as the middle school. I retired in 2000, ran for the school board soon after, and have served since that time. My thinking then about being on the school board was much the same as it is now. For many of my teaching years, I thought it would be prudent for someone who knew the ins and outs of the way schools operated to be on the board. I often worried that there was no representative to give that side of the story when various decisions had to be made. I don't advocate stacking the board with educators, but I believe that they certainly have a knowledge and awareness that people not in the field don't have. I know that we've had many lawyers, doctors, parents, concerned citizens, and many wonderful people who have served and continue to serve. The diversity is what makes the board strong. As for myself, I, like many seasoned veterans of any profession, feel like I have seen it all, or at least a lot of it. And what I bring to the table, along with other positive qualities, I hope, is a knowledge of what things in education have worked and what have not. What issues should be brought to the forefront on behalf of the students and teachers in order for the school experience to be the best it can be. I am not all-knowing, and I don't want to imply that at all, but I do have an experiential understanding that people who are not in education lack. We, like most other districts, have had our share of problems. In 9 years, there have been many. Hiring and keeping the best teachers. Keeping up with the rapid growth of technology. Keeping almost 100-year-old buildings in working order. Managing a budget when state funds have been cut drastically. Keeping up morale within the rank and file when the teachers have had to teach under less than ideal facility circumstances. Keeping up morale among the students who are often shoved into spaces not destined to be schoolrooms, but which become makeshift schoolrooms anyway. Dealing with the trailer situation. Students being exposed to the weather just to go to the restroom, to lunch, or to other classes. Worrying that the 5th grade annex at Beaker was putting our students and faculty at health risk. Being acutely aware of the need for new schools. Proposing bond and levy issues and seeing them defeated. Improving test scores. Currently, we are implementing Saxon math, and it has been fabulous. I'm not an expert on it, I cannot tell you all the ins and outs, but I just know that the scores are improving dramatically. We are starting the program Making Meaning, which is an English program that shows a lot of promise and a lot of spiraling in the curriculum, something we've not had. And I must say, a lot of that is due to our new curriculum director, Julie Stevenson, who has worked very hard this year to pull things together, initiate new things, and I think help us to head in the right way. Of course, this only scratches the surface of what is involved in running a school district, but I'm sure you get the picture. When faced with such issues, who wouldn't take them seriously? Throughout the years, individuals on the Board of Education have signed on to be dedicated, meet much more than once a month, go through training, serve on committees, and attend school functions, among other things. I have done those things and more. I have been proud to have served twice as board president. I am passionate about the current levy issue. We must finally meet our building issues head on. Will it cost? Yes. Will you feel it in your wallet? Yes. But if you break it down to figure what you will be spending per week or even per month, you will see that it is equivalent to what you might be spending already on extras like Xboxes and cell phones and eating out. If one puts the priorities in order, none of these things can compare with a better education for our children and for our future. Let me tell this anecdote to show another way in which new schools mean so much to our community. Kids, of course, would be the #1 reason for new schools. But consider what outsiders think when faced with moving to Marshall and putting their children in our schools, or going elsewhere with a well-equipped and well-housed system. Case in point. My son's best friend lives in California. His wife is a doctor. Recently, they were invited to Marshall to look over the town with the possibility of moving here where she would start and build her practice. They came to dinner this past weekend, and we were anxious to hear how they were leaning, trying not to sway them either way. They praised our new hospital and all of the hospital facilities. They praised the kindness of all the people they met. They praised the hospitality of the hospital officials. They were dismayed with our schools. What will they decide? I don't know. They don't know yet. But consider that a lot of young people who might move into our Marshall, will be considering what the town has to offer. One of the most important issues will be the education of their children. I close, this is usually where everybody gets restless on Sunday morning, I close with this thought. I love Marshall, my hometown. I have spent my life being involved with and advocating for our school system. I thank the citizens who have allowed me to be a part of the school board for the past 9 years. I ask you to allow me to be a part of the evolution of the plan we've put together for the building of new schools. I want to be a part of its implementation. I still have much to offer if I continue to serve on the board, and I will appreciate your support. New ideas are important, but so is experience. Thank you.
Next will be Sheree Stover.
Good evening, my name is Sherry Stouffer. I am currently a teacher over in Pettis County R12. Some people refer to as Dressing School. I am a Title I teacher over there. Title I program is where students that do not qualify for an IEP or classified as a learning disability that struggle in school, it's my job to get those students one-on-one and figure out what they can do in the classroom or what extra things they need to make sure they are understanding the concepts that are going on in school. Sometimes it's like you're getting them before they fall through the cracks, and you're helping build them up, and a lot of that is with self-esteem. And I also have 2 children. I've only been in Marshall I've lived here for 20 years, so this is my 6th year on the board. I feel that I do play an important part on the board. Being a current teacher, I am usually up to date on what's going on in education, which is constantly changing all the time. One program comes in, as soon as you learn it, another program comes in, it's constantly changing. So you have to be up to date on all that to make sure the students are learning what they need to be learning, and you have to think of new ways to get them there. I always get nervous in front of people, sorry. I'm used to little people all day. I look forward to continue serving on the Marshall Public School Board. I have enjoyed it. We sometimes don't always get along, but we always have the same goal at the end, and that is to do what is best for the kids of Marshall. And I do have children in the district, and so I want what is best for the children here. Their education is very important to me, as well as all the education for all the students that live here. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Brad Guthrie.
Thank you. My name is Brad Guthrie. I'll actually appear on the ballot as Charles Guthrie. I'm the middle namer, so don't think it's my dad, it's me. I graduated from Marshall in 1989, moved away when I went to college. I was gone for 14 years, moved back to my small family in 2003, which quickly became a big family. So I'm pretty well vested in the school system right now. My job is currently a claims supervisor in crop insurance. I cover about 4 different states: Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, and Oklahoma. And this job is really neat because I get to travel these states pretty extensively, and I go to the smallest towns you cannot find on maps, and we still find them. Going through these towns, it's neat to see how they progress and how they're changing, either with new schools, new municipal buildings, or you see how they're dying and drying fast. And it's usually you get to drive past the border of a school building that, believe it or not, may have been built more recent than some of ours. So it really became an eye-opener to me as I come back to Marshall and I see these buildings and where we're at. So what motivated me to get on the board was the levy and to see where we're going with it. Put it point blank, not to reiterate their speech, we are out of space. We do need more space. It's very important. I was also very excited this year when we hired a new curriculum coordinator. It was great to see someone come in who can actually help us kind of tie up the transitions between those grades and help the teachers get a fresh start on the year. I noticed with my kids how they kind of either seem to jump ahead or falling behind. So the curriculum is just very important to me, and it's great to see that that's been addressed and moving forward with that. Even with the new buildings, I do think we need to have a little bit of a plan of attack moving forward. Beaker's pretty old itself. The high school is 40 years old. I think it'd be great for the board to get together and kind of start putting together ideas and thoughts and plans for the future and get a little bit of a goal put together, which is what I hope to see happen. So I appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Next is Stephanie Pistol.
Thanks everyone for coming out. I'm going to start out with what I'm not, and that is a politician or public speaker. So if I step all over myself, you'll know why. I came to Marshall in 1991 after meeting my husband, Brad. I'm also better known as Brad's wife or Taylor's mom, is how I'm usually addressed, and I can't think of two better titles to go by. I worked for Marshall Public Schools for 19 and a half years. I started in 94 as a bookkeeper, worked in central office for 4 years, then transferred to the high school into the guidance office where I kept my summers off on the same schedule as my daughter, and worked up to become the principal secretary until February of last year when I accepted a position with Santa Fe Schools. I made the change for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was I've seen a lot in Marshall schools. When I started working for the school system, it was the place to be. You walked in the door and you were proud of where you were. You told people where you worked and you were excited about it and you knew you were in a good place. In my time, I have seen that feeling digress. The morale is not where it was. The focus is not where it was. It's just not as good of a school district as I know it can be because I saw it where it was. That would be my agenda. I want Marshall Schools to return to what it once was. There is a lack of trust within the district between the board and the staff, which creates a lot of unrest. No one wants to speak up because they're fearful of getting that little black check by their name or losing their job or making a wrong comment to the wrong person. And I'm a very outspoken person. I don't mind to share my opinion, but you'll know it's my opinion. My opinion is we need change. We need some new faces. We need some people on this board that the district feels comfortable with, the community feels comfortable with, that have the needs of our kids at the forefront where it used to be. The new school is awesome. I am 100% on board. I think there's some places that we can reduce the cost and make that money go farther. That's what needs to happen, but we'll see where that goes. I'm not a construction, I don't work in construction, I know nothing about it. You don't have to vote for me. I appreciate your vote, but whoever you do vote for, make sure that you truly believe they are here for the right reasons. Every time I come to one of these, I always ask myself, what are they really here for? What's it really about? Are they adding lines to their obituary? Do they have someone in the district they're out to get? Are they got family that they know is going to come into teaching and they think it's going to help them get a job? Or, various reasons. There's so many reasons a person can want to be on board. I assure you, I have none of those. My daughter graduated this semester. I have no one employed with the district. I now work at Santa Fe Schools. It's not going to help me career-wise to work there. I truly just want what is best for the kids. And I want to see Marshall Public Schools come back to where it was when I began in 1994. Thank you.
Again, remember, if you have questions, please write them down. When we get finished here, we'll play. Next up, Jeff Hamer.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. Briefly, my name is Jeff Haymeyer. I was born and raised here in Marshall, born in '64, graduated in '82 from Marshall High School. Left for 11 years, got my business degree out of Springfield, Missouri. Married my lovely wife, April, and live here currently with 2 children that we raised and now 1 grandson. So we do have a vested interest in this community, and we want to see that through. Why am I here? It's a very good point. I am running because I want to make a difference. I would like to help provide the top-notch curriculum that we've got started. I want to also make sure we have retention and recruitment of the best teachers that we have. We have many here that we need to keep, and we have others that I'm sure we need to look for. Lastly, but first I want to say that having safe and secure schools is probably the most important thing. And I think we looked at the levy earlier. That was very well done, and we've got some things to make decisions on there. This thing passes, we will spend that money wisely, and I'll bring some business experience along to make those decisions. I've been working in agriculture for 25 years, both in sales and business and in marketing currently, and we trade a lot of pain when we get behind doors, when we have to make decisions, and we don't make decisions based on want. We don't make decisions based on emotion. We make them based on need, and we make them based on a budget. And I think the Marshall School District, the Marshall School Board is one of the biggest businesses here in town. So with that business being large and very important to our kids, I will bring, and you can expect sound decisions from me that are credible, that will challenge the other school board members to base it on need, and all these decisions will be made for the betterment of our kids. How do we give them a top-notch curriculum that's second to none? And are we on that track today? It sounds like we are. So I will fight to provide these things, and I will bring my business experience to the table. Please get out and vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Tim Schulte.
Hello, my name is Tim Schulte. I grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri. Went to Elias High School, graduated in 1990. Went to Central Missouri State, graduated in 94 with a BS in Criminal Justice. With my degree, I became a highway patrolman from the state of Missouri. Worked here in Marshall from 95 to 99. I went to Lake the Ozarks for 4 or 5 years, again with the highway patrol, and I moved to Texas. While there, I worked with the company as a safety manager, just too far from home. I really enjoyed Marshall when my wife and I were here. By the time we were done in Texas, we had 3 children, Allie, Emma, and Connor. Just wanted to get close to home. My wife and I loved Marshall when we were here in the late 90s and had many, many good friends here. Now that my kids are in school, they currently go to St. Peter's. Connor's getting ready to go to Marshall High. I want to be involved with their education. I'm currently with on the St. Peter's School Board. Have been for 2 years. I'm the vice president of their board. We've done many, many projects the last couple of years, and I'm proud to be involved with it. Currently, I'm a plant manager at Missouri Valley College. Have been for 6 years. That's my strongest asset to this board. We're in the process of building a $6 million student union. We built a $1.5 million resident hall, $800,000 resident hall. I built 5 buildings, all under budget and within the time frames that they've been allowed. We've had millions and millions of dollars in renovations. I think anyone that's in the room can see what the college has done in the last 10 years. I've been there for the last 6, and I'm proud to say that as well. While at the college, we've remodeled the entire science building. We've done every lab. I've done the fiber optic system within the campus. Jason Rennie and I have done all that together. We've updated, and we're currently updating our IT department to have 100% wireless on campus. People ask, why are you running to be on the Marshall School Board? The reason I'm running is to help provide solid leadership and direction for our school system. Growing up in Jefferson City and playing Marshall in high school athletics, it was always a battle. Marshall had tremendous amounts of pride in the late 90s and early 90s. It was obvious. We as a school community must bring that same pride back to our community. Pride must involve the school board, the administrators, students, parents, and the community. We have to get the families involved in the schools. If we don't have family involvement in our school system, we don't have anything. Schools are a focal point of every small community. We must show we are proud of ours. As our schools improve, as our technology improves, as our curriculum continues to improve and our leadership improves, so will our pride and our ownership in our school system. A school board's number one concern is obviously the students. The school board members and all the district employees will not have a job without it. School boards must constantly seek ways to help students improve by offering new educational programs, standardized testing assistance, and enrichment programs for our students. Board must listen to feedback from all parents, students, and staff with an open mind, not an agenda. We must understand our demographics. We have a lot of poor kids in our schools. Everybody knows that. We must direct and support actions and programs for those kids. We'll never improve our test scores if we don't work for the entire community. We are at a critical stage right now. We're looking for voting for tax levy, 4 school board members, and a common core curriculum that we're all unsure of. I know with my experience with the St. Peter's Board, my experience in construction that no one else has, and all these I can bring to this board. I do hope for your vote April 8th. Thank you.
Amy Davis.
Hi, my name is Andy Davis. I was born and raised in this community. I went to school here, graduated high school in 1987. Went to MU, earned Bachelor of Science and Master of Fine Arts in sculpture. Taught art at the university and college level for 3 or 4 years. And you're probably familiar with the local public sculpture that I created for Marshall, doing the Wonder Dog, and I also did a piece in Columbia. Currently serving as an assistant scoutmaster for Marshall's Troop 42, as well as I serve on the administrative board for Smith Chapel Church and chair of trustees committee at Smith Chapel as well. Hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about Common Core tonight. It's one of the things that I'm a little concerned about. I know it's something that we don't have a whole lot of choice on whether or not we take it or not at this point. It's something that, well, basically I feel like it's an overreach of the federal government into our business, is what I feel like. Many of you are here because you're concerned about the direction that our country is headed, and our state, and how it's going to affect our children's education, and I'm here for the same reason. I'm concerned about our parental rights. I feel like they're in jeopardy. It seems like that's the biggest base level concern with the whole Common Core thing, is each incremental step that the government gets deeper and deeper involved into our education system, the less control we have over the process. I'm concerned that they think they know the best way to educate and raise our children, and I do not trust their judgment, their motivation, or their methods. As a school board member, I will keep a close watch on our rights as parents and our rights as a community to decide how our education is structured and how we educate our children. I think the tax levy obviously is a big concern. All of the issues that we're talking about tonight were the main reasons why I felt like it was a good idea. I'm not any more excited about paying more taxes than anybody else, but I think it's something that's overdue. I mean, our facilities in town they've been here for a long time. We talked about the newest school being 1968. I know my wife teaches in the district. She is well aware of issues with the facilities. I know there's a lot of health concerns in some of the buildings, and it's something that's well overdue. The issue of transitioning students from one building to the next is a major concern. having to get used to new administrators, new buildings, new bus routes. It's different every year, and there's no sense of continuity from one year to the next. And I think it's a huge issue for those kids trying to figure out how to navigate while they're trying to also learn as well. I will be on the lookout for ways to make everything as efficient as possible. I know that this is a big process that's going to be involved if the levy passes. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process finalizing all the designs. When we moved back here to Marshall, we built our house from the ground up, so I've got a little bit of construction experience. So I've got a little bit of an idea of what's going on. I know this is a little bit different scale, but I feel like I can add to the discussion when it comes time to fine-tune designs and think about process in which the space is going to be used. In summary, I pledge to always look at all sides of every issue that comes up in the district. I'm going to investigate everything. To begin with, I was pretty sure that the whole Common Core concern was a bad deal from start to finish. I think it has its merits. The basic idea of creating a level playing field for the entire country at its base sounds like a good idea, but I don't think it's something that the federal government needs to be involved in. It's something that should be dealt with at the state level. Anyway, I will look at all issues from all sides and try to make a decision for what I think is best for the community. Thank
The last of the 8 candidates for the 3-year board term is Raymond Thompson.
First of all, I believe in world peace, and I've only seen one baby that's ever scared me. The rest of my kids. Introduce myself. I have my wife is Nancy Thompson. She teaches over at St. Peter's currently. I have 6 children. I graduated from the University of Missouri with a bachelor's degree in '74. Graduated from Marshall High School prior to that. And my 6 children all have degrees. Do I believe in education? Absolutely. They have 3 advanced degrees, and I have two additional children that are working with advanced degrees. So, am I about education? That I am. Do I think it's the most important thing we can give our kids? Absolutely. I don't correlate necessarily the building issue and our problems with our rankings and our testing and that sort of thing. I know that this issue is kind of being sold. The issue, the bond issue is being sold. Initially, it was going to be the building process and all that, and after we found out there was some objection to the condition of our education, then we start studying more on, we're going to focus on improving our education, which I think that's where all the focus can be. I don't believe that we should be focusing on the building with all these millions and not focus on the education. My education started at Walter Penn. Mrs. Ward taught me how to read, most important thing I ever learned. And Mrs. Frame taught me that we didn't have to have money, we didn't have running water, telephone, things like that. And Mrs. Frame taught me that respecting other people, and you can be respected without having the money or the things that other people have. Mrs. Bryan taught in 3rd grade taught me to grind through activities like long division and things like that. I think she was probably at least 100 years old. All of my teachers were older. they were all people that I respect and respected more as the years went by. The fourth grade teacher taught me that rules were made and no exceptions, no matter how good a kid you were. That the rules were made for everybody. It was Mrs. Martin. Mrs. Myers-Hagan taught me how to do research, how to look into things and learn on my own, not just what was taught to me. And kicking back road things, she taught us how to research things. And Mrs. Leslie was my sixth grade teacher. And she taught me that I could be something and I could go beyond my state in life if I would continue my education. So she brought me to get into to look for higher education up down the road. All those teachers made an impact on me. Okay? All those teachers made an impact on me. And over the years, I realized too that they were all older teachers except for Mrs. Leslie. And I've grown to feel that one of the problems we have in this system with our education is that we like to hire, especially at the high school level, we tend to hire teachers that are closer in age to our students because they identify better that they identify better with the students. And I think it's a major mistake, both from a moral standpoint and from an educational standpoint. If I'm sending my kids to school, I want those kids to learn. I don't care whether the teacher likes them or they like the teacher or not. You don't have to like the teacher, but you better respect the teacher and you better learn. So I think that part of the problem that I see with the system today is that we don't put education first. Even with all of this process of the bond issue and spending millions of dollars, we're not putting education first. You don't end up in the bottom 10% because you're focused on education. You go to the DESE site on math testing and scores, and they set out, of course, we know from the architect that we're 478 out of 531 districts, bottom 10%. Some argue 11, but it's a moot point to me. I think that we don't hire the right administrators, and we end up with the wrong teachers. We don't help them improve, or we keep them, we tenure them. I've seen people that were tenured where 7 people sat in a room and agreed that they were poor, mediocre, or poor, and still tenured them because nobody has the courage to put their name on the line to vote no. I've seen us hire, we have an extracurricular driven high school, okay, where we will hire a music teacher because they can teach soccer. We will hire a history teacher because they're a girls basketball coach. I think we've been driven by a lot of coaches that become administrators, and everyone knows that knows me knows that I believe in extracurricular activities. I think they teach a lot of leadership and good things. And I'm currently involved with 4 girls basketball teams and a soccer team that we're forming right now, pro soccer. I give my time to children in the community. I also pick up kids from Hardeman, Slater, Wareville, Alma, Sweet Springs, Mobile Bend. Work with a lot of kids, and one of the things that I keep hearing from parents out in those areas is, when is Marshall going to do anything about that high school? So yeah, the idea that have we slipped? Yes, we have slipped. And I think that should be the number one priority before anything else. I'm not eager to spend thousands of dollars a year additional tax money because we have waited too long. We should be addressing building needs. It was a nice presentation. I don't agree with the proposal as it's set up. I'd like to see us stay within a bonding capacity and approach it differently. But do we have needs? Yes, we do. I think we do have needs. But I think that the building needs pale in comparison to when you look on the DESE side, and you see that they rank schools with 5 stars, and you look at, or you go look at Marshall's site, and we get a partial star for our middle school, and we get no stars for our high school. No stars. I think if you want me to get excited about paying thousands more in taxes, then bring me a product that's worth thousands more. You know, would I be happy? Would I be happy to kick in for a product I'm proud of? Absolutely. And am I proud of what we have now? No. And I'm the one person that wouldn't vote tenure for those people. And I'll leave it with you on that, is that if you want somebody that doesn't have to rubber stamp everything, and someone that will stand up for your children, I will do that. I won't be part of the rah-rah, or, you know, this is for the kids deal. I am for the kids. 100% I'm for the kids. And I want better education for every child in this community. I don't have a child here. All my children are out. They make anywhere from 3 to 6 times what my wife makes. They're all doing very well. They don't live here. So I don't have a dog in a fight. You know, the things that I do with the children in this community, I don't have a dog in a fight. You know, I do it for the kids. And I will stand up. I will stand up and fight for a better education for your children.
Yeah, again, remember, if you have any questions, please write it down. When we finish in a moment, we'll collect them, and we'll start answering questions. Now we move on to the one-year term, where there's 1 seat up, and the first speaker will be Diana McCarthy, excuse me.
I'm Diana McCarthy, and I'm currently on the school board. Filled in for Wayne Crawford when he left. I was selected by the board to fill in at that time, and I really enjoyed the information that I've gained from being on the board. Personally, about myself, I have a BS Master's in Specialist degree in Education and Special Education. When I was teaching at the middle school, we were EMIDS trained. I understand about all the training that the teachers have to go through to stay current. The PLC, I sat there a long time, got nervous. The PLC meetings that they have at school now to help the teachers have collaboration time has really helped develop the curriculum and changes that the children need. I know the CSIP information, and I know I've been in all the buildings, and it's interesting. When I got on the board, the first thing I did was go around and visit all the schools, because I would go after school to a meeting and there wouldn't really be kids in there, and you really would see how crowded and how tight things were, and you didn't get to really go down to the boiler room. But as a board member, the administrators were very happy to show me around the building, and there are lots of needs there. I think I know some things about the current trends in education. I retired in 2008, and felt like it was time for me to give something back to the community. I got active on the auxiliary at the hospital, and then the position came up on the board, so I did that. So like I said, I taught in the public schools. Actually, it was 27 years in the 5th grade classroom, pretty much. I was active in the Community Teachers Association. I served on the Marshall Park Board for a few years, and I was lucky enough to be there when they made up the master plan, and they took a lot of information from the public to find what they wanted, and once they got what the public wanted down pat, they asked the people to vote for it, and they did. And I'm hoping people will feel that way about the school system, because it touches everybody. It touches preschool all the way up to high school. I've taken one of the board training, which is 16 hours, and I really didn't realize that was coming, and it's very intense. But anyway, I've at least got that under my belt. I worked at the HAB Center also for 4 years, and I was an administrator out there in a unit for just one of those 4. Some of my objectives include to provide an enriching and safe environment for all the students, and to advocate for the administrators and the teachers, and to keep our school resources top-notch. I want to represent the community and the citizens by making responsible and knowledgeable decisions regarding budget issues. I want to explore all the avenues regarding the improvement and updating of all the Marshall Public School structures. Then I have a little vision for all of us. I want Marshall Public Schools to be the best that they can be, as we all do, and for our community, because what is good for Marshall Public Schools is good for the community. It'll continue to grow. Change is not always easy, but it's necessary. I know as a teacher, we get, the last thing we did wasn't on the logic, but it was No Child Left Behind. And boy, oh boy, did we grow. Oh my gosh. Everything's changed. We thought we had it all figured out, and we had to go through No Child Left Behind, but we made it. We did. And now they're changing it again. So change is not easy, but it's, it can be for the better. And one of the greatest things about Marshall is the pride that people have in their school. I mean, I haven't made it to a lot of events at school, I don't know why, but when you go to sporting events, parents are there, grandparents are there. They love, seeing the school events and music programs at Christmas time. Marshall has supported a lot of things since that high school was built. I said 76. You look around at all the new facilities that we have supported, that we've paid taxes for. Maybe it was sales tax, or a little bit added to the sales tax, and it kind of hurt us, but we didn't feel it as hard as voting for this levy was going to make us feel it a little bit harder. But we need it desperately, and I am supporting of that, and I've enjoyed my year on the board that I've had so far, and I hope to get your support for another. It'll just be a one-year term, so just one more year of me, and then I get to run for a 3-year term if I make it that far. Thank you so much.
Last school weekend is Leslie Houston.
He told me I only had 5 minutes, so I made notes so I wouldn't go over. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Leslie Houston, and I'm a candidate for the Marshall School Board. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'm going to tell you why I'm running for school board, what I hope to accomplish if elected, and finally, I'm going to tell you what I think makes a successful school board member. I was born and raised here in Marshall, and I graduated from Marshall High School. My husband, Nick, was born and raised here in Marshall, and he graduated from Marshall High School. My daughter, Samantha, was born and raised here in Marshall, and she graduated from Marshall High School. My son was born here, and he is currently a sophomore in Marshall High School. I'm sure you hear the consistent theme here, and it's all about Marshall. My roots run very deep. I later graduated from Missouri Valley College with a degree in elementary education. But I have spent the last 12 years as a parent volunteer in this school district. That includes being involved in the elementary PTO, the Beaker Middle School PTO, serving 3 years as president. I'm currently serving on the Marshall High School Booster Club Board. I'm the treasurer for Project Graduation. I'm on the Community Advisory Committee for the Saline County Career Center, helping with the marketing and DECA programs. And congratulations to the 10 DECA students that made it to ICDC today. But now it is time to move on to the next level. With my son, sadly, only 2 years away from graduation, my parent volunteer days are almost over. But I am still committed to this school district and to this community. So the obvious transition for me was to run for school board. I believe that my years of volunteer service will help me bring a new perspective to the school board. And I hope to promote a positive atmosphere so that our board can work together for the good of the kids. My leadership qualifications include serving on the board of directors for the Marshall Public Library, serving on the board of directors for the YMCA, and I'm currently serving on the board of directors for Butterfield Youth Services. Last year I was the secretary treasurer of that board, and this year I'm the vice president. I'm also the co-founder, my friend April Haymeyer, the local chapter of Shoes That Fit. We provide children in our school district with tennis shoes that have been identified as needing them. And over the last 5 years, we've helped over 500 kids in our district. So I have a strong passion for this community, and I want us to be proud of our school district. 25 years ago, we were one of the top school districts in the state, and I know you've heard that more than once tonight. But I believe we can be that again. We need to move forward and not just stand still, because when other school districts are moving ahead, they're passing us by. So we're not just standing still, we're falling behind. I want this district to be the one that teachers strive to work for, and that people move to this community to enroll their children in. And I believe that the first step to achieving this is by providing a positive school climate. And by doing the following points, we would accomplish that. We need effective administrative leadership. We need appropriate school facilities. We need up-to-date technology programs. And we need staff stability and support. And that effective leadership includes the school board. So here are my 5 important qualities of any school board member. Number 1, we need to have high expectations for our students, including a strong curriculum and recognition of academic success. We need to keep and attract the best teachers with appropriate staff development and competitive salaries. We need to increase parental involvement by making all parents aware of the activities in their children's schools and by making them feel welcome to come. We need to spend money wisely, including balancing the school budget and confirming that all funds are spent appropriately and accounted for. And number 5, we need to work together with respect. We need to listen to each other's opinions, and we need to weigh the differences from those opinions from ours, and we need to compromise when necessary. So again, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. I would like to ask for you to go out and vote on April 8th, and I would like to ask for your support. But I would like to leave you with this one final quote from the late Tom Butterfield. Let me be the voice of the kids. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions you'd like to add to Meryl before we get started? As I said, I'm just going to pull them out, and as long as they are addressed to one individual, that's about the only criteria we've got for them. And the first one flunks. Address anybody. Try number 2. Okay. To Anita Wright. Do you believe statements like my way or the highway? Okay, hang on a minute, guys. The other criteria I was hoping not to face was potential questions of a personal tax. Okay? And if I see one that's blatant, in my opinion, I'm not going to ask it. And if whoever put the question in the barrel would like to address this with me when this meeting's over, be ready, come right on. But we will not do something like that. And I think this question is a personal tax. I'm not going to ask it. Okay. So in other words, you're going to read the question first. Okay, Ron Duvall. We are concerned about the unkept neighborhoods, falling down buildings, etc. Slater seems to have found a solution and cleaned that town up. Marshall seems to be getting worse each year. How do you feel we can address that?
I think we are addressing it, with the funds that we have. We are tearing down houses probably, I don't know, probably 3 or 4, say about 2 a month, or maybe not quite that often. But, yes, it is a problem, and, we're working on it all the time. It may not seem like we are, but we're having hearings on these, and the process is not something you just go out and tear a house down. You have to go through a lengthy process to do this.
If you notice, I pulled one more out and set it up here. It's not addressed anymore. So, set that one aside. This one's addressed to Sherry. Do you think it's in the best interest of the district to continue to build a cash surplus of over $5 million, which is far above what the Department of Education feels is necessary, while staff salaries fall farther and farther behind?
I do know that we are required to have at least an 18 to 20% reserve at all times, and the state does recommend that we have up to 25% reserves at all times to cover expenses at certain times. If that is a surplus, I am all for teachers. I am a teacher. I don't think we are paid enough for the time that we put in. We work more than just the 7 to 3 that everybody works. If the money's there, by all means, I think the teachers need to get it. But I also think the classified staff, like our janitors and our paras and our nurses and bus drivers, also need a bump in salary. Teachers cannot get, with the class sizes that they have, cannot get as much done if they don't have good support staff, and they need paras. And in my personal opinion, and it's just not feasible right now, I would like to see more paras in the districts to help the students, especially in the lower elementary. But if the money's there, I just think it needs to be spread out between the teachers and also our classified, because good paras, good janitors, good secretaries, and good nurses are hard to find, and they are our support staff, and we cannot do what we do without them.
Okay, this is a real simple one, not addressing anybody, so I'm just going to ask you. The new school buildings, are they 1 or 2 stories? 2 stories. Elevators for handicap, only or for all kids? Okay. The answer was 2-story, there will be elevators, the policy's not in place yet to use the elevator. Anita Wright, do you feel the current school board is too active in the daily working of the school district?
I think there's a fine line between overseeing and micromanaging. And I think we're always trying to decide where we come in on this. We don't want to micromanage. We feel like if we hired someone, such as an administrator, to do a job, if that person was indeed hired, then that person should indeed have the authority to take care of the things he's supposed to. But there again, we do provide a stopgap measure, and we do have questions, and we do sometimes kind of go round and round and debate about things that need to be done. But now, tell me again, say that one more time.
You feel the current school board is too active in the daily working of the school district?
No, I do not. We mostly take on things that need to be voted on. We do discuss things, and we are active. But I do not think that we really have been a micromanaging type of board. And so that would be my answer. Plus, I've never said my way or the highway.
If anybody does, I'm going to leave these up here when it's over. If we haven't get to all the questions, you wonder why yours were not asked. This is the staff that's not addressed. Tim Schultz, how do you plan to increase family involvement in the schools?
To increase family involvement in the schools, I think parent-teacher conferences need to be mandatory. I think if there's issues in school, parents need to get some sort of literature from the teachers, from the staff. It needs to go home and be signed and be brought back. I think if it continues, we need to have conferences. I think our administrators need to be involved if it gets too far. But I think the voluntary parenting needs to stop. Parents need to come to school. Teachers need to know the parents' names. And we need to get everyone involved in our students' education.
If they got a teacher in grade school, Mrs. Thompson in St. Louis, and she had a rule: if you wanted to pass her class, she had to come to your house and have dinner. It was 8 kids in my family. She taught 7 of us. Jeff Ameyer, what will be the top 3 objectives if elected to the school board? Your top 3 objectives.
Top 3 objectives, number 1 is continuing to provide the best curriculum, and that's based on what's already started, making sure that that's provided second to none. Number 2 would be the retention and recruitment of teachers. Absolute. I do agree with Mr. Thompson. We've got to get new schools and we've got to have some facilities, but if we don't have a baseline of education and teachers in those schools, you can have a Taj Mahal and not have much inside it. So, however, I'm still for the levy, obviously. Last but not least is safe and secure schools. I think we're very vulnerable right now. You see the news all the time of all the things that happen, and that thing just festers on itself, and that scares the heck out of me as a parent, and it should scare everyone here with the trailers we have. So.
Okay, Sherry Stouffer, this is kind of a 2-part question. Is returning to 5 full days of school important to you? In other words, no early outs on Wednesdays. And you feel that early out on Wednesdays has improved test scores?
Okay, this is my personal opinion. I've never liked early out Wednesdays. Because by the time the first set of kids is picked up at this building and they get to the last elementary building to pick up their kids, you've wasted a lot of time. It's sometimes 3 o'clock when they get to that other building to get those kids, so that PLC time is gone. They don't get as much. Some buildings get more than others just because of how the bus route is set up. As far as it improving test scores, it may have helped, but I don't think it has helped as much as I would have liked to have seen help. But, I mean, any little extra you do is going to help, but no, I haven't seen the progress that I'd like to have seen in the test scores for the PLC days, and I don't, my personal opinion only, I don't think the PLC days are very effective.
Nita Wright, what is your opinion of a noon release for snow day makeup? This person is asking because they're concerned about the hours of class the students are missing.
I'm so glad to be so popular. This is wonderful. Dismissing at noon, as opposed to waiting to the end of the day. I think that in my time as a teacher, there were days when I felt if they didn't get those kids on home, there was going to be trouble. And the safety of the children, to me, is number 1. Now, do we worry about them missing instructional time? You darn right we do. And that is one thing that, we weigh and we worry about. We do have to require to go so many hours, and we do make those times up. We're going later in the year to make up the times that we've had to miss this year. But I have seen times, I've witnessed times when I was teaching when letting those kids out was really very important. Not for the town kids, of course, so much as the rural. I do know that these things cause problems for people who are working and have to come and get the kids or make arrangements. And, I regret that. But bottom line, the safety of the children, I think, is the most important thing.
Round of golf. The area along 65 bypass from the hospital going south is very welcoming and looks great. Just wondering why and when there's a beautiful welcome to Marshall sign, an automated sign, the old dilapidated sign is not removed.
The welcome Marshall sign at 65 coming into town is beautiful. I love it. The sign that is in, I think it's in Elmhurst parking lot, there at the building. That sign is due to come down as soon as we get, people to come in there, and the ground's been wet, but it is due to come down. And I'm not going to give you a timeline because you might hold it to it. Okay?
Back to Anita Wright. At this time, we have two problems in our district. 80 school buildings with deplorable ratings in the state achievement test, which this person feels is the most pressing problem. And how should this problem be solved?
I think I'll just stay standing. The quality of education the students get is number one priority, over and above buildings or anything else. Well, of course, safety, obviously. But we want, and that kind of harkens back to the question that I answered before. The safety of those children is so very important. When you let those kids go in the morning, you expect them to come back at night. You also expect them to get a good education. And I talked with you about starting my education at 5 at Benton School, and going all through the schools and being a Marshallite. And yes, I remember heydays. I remember when it was a go-to school. It was a go-to community. What has happened? I don't think there's any one answer. And I noticed that several of the candidates said their priority was, their priorities are the same, I think, as all of our priorities. We want the best for the kids and we want an education. How to fix it? We are doing everything we know how, and I alluded to it a little bit in my presentation. We have a curriculum director now that I think is going to be very instrumental, has already been and is going to be, in getting us some direction. We have worked on CSIP plans. It's not that we stand idle. I don't think there's any one answer, but I do know that the curriculum director has been instrumental in starting this meeting program, which I am personally going to classes and trying to learn more about, because it is an English area. The Saxon math has already shown itself to be successful. We've got to keep working, and we do have to attract better teachers. And again, how do you do that? Well, no, building new schools isn't going to take care of everything. But it will provide better places for those children to be educated and for the teachers in which to work. How to solve the problem, I wish I knew. But I do know that there are various pieces that are being worked on, and hopefully, overall, we are heading in the right direction. We all want the same thing for our kids.
One simple question wasn't addressed to anybody, but how many votes are needed for the school levy? It's a simple majority. It takes one vote over half. Raymond Thompson. I'm going to paraphrase this question. The statistics that you quoted as far as the ranking of stars, where did they come from and how credible is that source?
Well, it came from a testing, ranking, map testing across the U.S., and you can pick your state. You can go to that state, and then you can pick your district. You can pick your school within that district. It ranks them all, state by state. ranks them county by county, or district by district, I should say. It's, I think, Missouri math rankings, or whatever, student listed as a DESI site. And it gives you map rankings of all schools in the state. And I think it's important, when you look at schools like Rockwood Summit, they didn't hire teachers unless you had 5 or 10 years experience. Okay, you see their rankings, their 4s and 5s on all their schools at Rockwood Summit. Okay, they drive curriculum, they drive education, and I think that's what we need to do. We need to drive our education. Get out of that 10% bracket. I'd like to see us at 99. And, I'm an idealistic person. I'm also a very passionate person. I think that we're not anywhere close to what we could be.
Mr. Rimmer, what will you bring to the council Mr. Duvall is not?
Probably more hair. No, I think Ron's done a good job. I think Ron would say that. But several years ago, I ran for council, and I was certainly met with a guy I had that I worked for a long time. He asked me to come do a job for him. Right there in between the time that we filed and the time that the election come out, I just bowed out. Anyway, this time I'm now retired, and I'm ready to go to work again. Actually, when you retire, I don't know if you guys are the same as me, but you kind of want something to do. Is that right, John, or not? But anyway, as far as what I can bring to it that Ron doesn't, well, like I said, not a lot, because he's done a good job. But I can do a good job too. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, your turn. If reelected, what will you do more of as a council person, and what will you do less of?
I think it's loaded. I kind of lost for words here. What I would do more of, and I don't know how I can drive across town much more than I do. I circle the town probably once every day. I drive through the park. I look at areas. I go to our city administrator and report areas I think need problems, and we have problems. And what I do less of, I don't think I can do any less. It's not in me.
Okay, this one's for Ron. What's your stance on the proposed smoke-free ordinance for the city of Marshall?
The smoke-free for the city of Marshall, I personally feel that it should go to the vote of the people, and at that time, if it's passed, we will take care of the ordinance.
Steve, same question. What is your stance on the proposed smoke-free ordinance for the city of Marshall?
I agree with Ron totally. Yes, I think you start getting scolded.
Okay, before I read the last question again, I think I want to put one question in my pocket that I refuse. No, there's two in there that I would not ask. All of this stack right here was not addressed to anyone. And so, I guess we could maybe take some time to go through, but they're addressed like every school board here. It's kind of difficult to do that. No, you know what? We could start on that end and go down and randomly ask the questions. If everybody wants to. I mean, I hate not asking the questions, but it was pretty simple to address it to a specific person. Times.
Ask a question and ask volunteer training.
All right. Just a second to read this one. Okay, Steve Romer. If an issue comes before the council, and you know many of your constituents are either for or against it, but that position is at odds with your personal opinion and beliefs, how would you handle that?
Once again, I work for the people that I support, constituents. And I check that out and find out how they feel. And whatever the majority, like Ronnie Bowman used to say, no matter what you think, 51% is going to be your estimate.
All right, let's see. Sheila, Ron's been talking. Applebee's managers told me that going smoke-free has noticeably helped their business and profits. What is Marshall's projected time frame for implementing the Breathe Easy initiative?
I don't know that a time has specifically been set. We have talked about it at times. I think it probably will be next year before we will really have one brought to us. But at first, we'd have to have an ordinance brought to us to see what it says, whether it be a fair one, if it would be something we would even want to try to get approved. But I think we're all leaning mainly to see what the public feels, because it is going to affect everyone in the city, and so we do want to do what our citizens want. So I think it will have to see if we want to put this on ballot at some point.
Okay, Stephanie, you haven't asked the question yet. What's your plan to put in place procedures to ensure funds generated by the levy issue are spent as planned?
As planned or wisely, would be my question.
Probably one of the same. Vice word, I'd say one.
Personally, I don't have an exact plan, but I have seen the same plan that you all saw. I did go to I made 2 of the Citizens Advisory Committee meetings. I think there are some places that the money could be saved. I know that they have figured in new furniture, new everything basically for the school building. Based on personal experience, I know at the high school they try to replace a classroom of furniture a year, or they used to, not so much anymore, but that used to be the plan. So I have a hard time believing that all of our furniture needs to be replaced. I think that is a place that we could definitely cut back some of the expenses and save some money to put towards some other programs. That's one example. I think there are so many things that need to be looked at on the big picture. I am not knowledgeable enough at this point to tell you what they are, because I am not in that process. But I promise that if I am in that process, the nickels and dimes will definitely catch my attention, because a penny saved here is a dollar saved there.
Who wants to take questions from the levy? Amy! When will the new school be paid for?
Go ahead, Steve. This is a lease purchase arrangement, so that the actual payoff is in about 25 years before it is totally paid off. However, they'll be occupied if it passes and if the construction is completed in the fall of 2016. The benefit of that is they get to be in them quicker.
Lori, do we have extra space for expansion and extra classrooms in the new building?
There is some allotted space to allow for growth in the plan for both of them. would have to look up the square footage, but there is that space.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the presentations I saw, kind of like Fitzgibbon was built for the wings, that these buildings are built to be able to edit on, correct?
Yes.
Look at our superintendent. The proposed repurposing in Northwest was mentioned. What about all the other school buildings?
I'm Ryan Huff, Superintendent of Schools here at Marshall. I appreciate everyone coming out and talk about the issues and listen to the issues and the comments. So I appreciate everyone here. Repurposing the buildings. Northwest Elementary, which was built in 1968, that is our newest elementary building. We still think it has a lot of years left in it. Currently, our early childhood students are attending at the Prairie View State School. We call that our part of it, the Early Childhood Center, which is the back half of that building. We lease that space from the state of Missouri. We do not own that facility. The plan is to move the Early Childhood Center out of that facility and bring it into the Northwest Elementary School. That will take care of the lease that we currently have with the state of Missouri. And it also will give us more space in the future if we can afford to expand that program to be able to serve more students. Right now, even if we wanted to serve more students, we cannot do that in the current space that we are in. We are full at the Early Childhood Center at the state school. Benton Elementary, I have personally spoken with people that are in authority at St. Peter's Elementary School. They have spoken to me about the interest in looking at the Benton Elementary building as a possible expansion for St. Peter's. And through this process, I did not want to put that information out there without the permission of St. Peter's to do so. And so that was one thing I was very, very clear of ahead of time. Is that something that was safe to say to the public? And the comment back was yes. So I am saying this to you because that is something that I've kind of heard in the community that maybe, where did this come from? Well, it came from direct conversations with people in authority at St. Peter's. And so I want to share that with you. Eastwood Elementary School, we've had conversations directly with the Marshall Public Library Board. Marshall Public Library Board had actually met myself and my elementary principal at Eastwood to tour the facility and to see how we better use, how that facility could be used or repurposed for the purpose of putting the Marshall Public Library into that facility. Obviously, that facility is a large facility relative to the library. Places could be walled off, partitioned off to where it could be used for storage. You wouldn't have to heat them necessarily, the whole facility. But it would be a good place for the Marshall Public Library to expand, because if you've ever been in the Marshall Public Library downstairs below City Hall, they are out of space as well. And so that would be a very nice facility for them to be able to refurbish and to repurpose and to also add, keep some architectural character that is in Marshall here in Plainview of the citizens. Southeast Elementary School, the architect's opinion as well, and talking with them, that's probably our worst case scenario building that we have. We'll put all these buildings out to bid for, you have to put them out for bid, except for Eastwood, because we could go directly to another taxing entity such as the city and say, hey, would you be interested in this? We just to put together an agreement between the two of us, we would not have to bid out that facility. But the other two facilities we would have to bid out legally. We put it out for bid, but if something didn't come up that looked like, hey, this is something that could keep this facility going and maintained, unlike what's happened with the Fitzgibbon Hospital, the board has been very clear. We do not want another shell of a building sitting in the center of town hurting the neighborhood values. Okay, that is not going to happen with any of the buildings. If we cannot find owners for the buildings, for example, if Benton does not work out with St. Peter's, these buildings will be demolished. We are not going to have them sitting around being isolated.
I'm going to try and paraphrase this last question. It is in regards to security. for the schools. So whichever one of you put your hands up first gets the microphone. Because the question is it's kind of multi-part, but the security of the children going to and from the trailers into the buildings, and then even looking at the new design with the open areas for education, playground, etc. What, I guess the real question is, how are security concerns being addressed with the new building specifically? Lori jumps up, okay.
Specifically in the new building, at this elementary level, the classrooms are designed, if you have a child that's in early elementary at this point, a routine measure that they go through is what's called an intruder drill. And an announcement will be made over the speaker, and it is a teacher's position, responsibility to get our children into, or his children, into a protective state, which means that we want those kids hidden from someone that could pass by the room. We want an intruder to look into an empty room. And in these particular buildings in the new elementary campus, they have closet space. Each two classrooms will share, I believe it's 150 square feet, something around that, for closet space that the kids are in each and every day. And those are able to be blocked off so that if we would have an intruder in the building, the children would all go into a safe room where they are in and out daily to kind of minimize the stress. Another key component would be a single entrance at the beginning, at the entrance of the school. Without trailer access, you've actually minimized the coming and going from around the campus. So children would need, or visitors would have to come in through a welcome center, check in, and have some additional safeguards to people that would gain access to the interior of the building.
Okay. That's really about it. What I might add is I was raised by a very proud Marine, and he always said that voting is not your right, it's your duty. Go vote. And on behalf of the City Marshal, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Ambassador Club, we would like everybody to thank everybody for coming.